it's quite easy to just say Dropbear. I think that's what everyone knows me as. Don't think anybody wants a first name for me.
Yes, I will go by Suzanne because I don't think people know me by anything. So I'll go by Suzanne. I'm a thief in the night. Yeah, but I don't really post on green level clearance unless I have a question that I want to ask the community, or unless I'm posting about an event that I'm running. And otherwise, like, I'm just watching everything and not saying anything. Yeah, exactly. Notorious lurker ever since I was in high school online. That's my whole shtick.
Is it possible to change the pronouns to he, they for me? All good. No, that's all good.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 9 of Scoopsmas. Hope you all are having as much fun. Today was a fantastic day with a lot of different scoops and some very fun, I think some very entertaining ways. So I think I'm looking forward to talking about not just the scoops, but how they were dropped. And I have 3 wonderful guests on to talk about these scoops today. So I'm going to have each of them in turn introduce themselves, talk about how long they've been playing Netrunner, how they got into Netrunner maybe, and then, how people might know them from the community. And I think for a fun question, boy, I have to think of a good fun question. Maybe what your favorite piece of ice is in Netrunner. It can be in elevation or in anything, any ice that you've played with ever. So Dropbear, you're up first. Could you introduce yourself and tell people about when you started Netrunner and what your favorite piece of ice is?
Hi, my name's Dropbear, he, they've pronouns. I started Netrunner around Lunar Cycle, or Creation Control. So a bit of a old school player. You might know me from stuff like Keygen and various art graphics art stuff that I did around the COVID times, and I've been basically doing nothing ever since. And for ice, I'm going to say the Drafter series, like Architect Drafter series, because it's the one device that when you let fire, you've basically lost the game.
Yeah, it is funny how it's like it's a subroutine that doesn't damage you at all, but as the runner, but man, it does feel terrible to have it resolve. So,
Yeah, it's such a interesting piece of ice.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Evie, do you want to introduce yourself to the stream?
Yeah, I'm Evie. I used to be very actively posting Netrunner on co-host, and now I do it on my own website. And my pronouns are she, her, and my favorite ice might be regular drafter, like the one that is currently legal and standard.
Yeah.
It is a fun effect that gives you minor incremental value that can snowball, but it is not so taxing that the runner is always going to break it. And I think that's really nice.
Yeah, no, Drafter is definitely one of my favorite ice as well. So yeah, I think that's a great answer. And Suzanne, last but most certainly not least, do you want to introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your Netrunner history?
Hi, my name is Suzanne. I use she, her pronouns. I first got into Netrunner around 2017. I believe I had watched the Shut Up and Sit Down review of the game, which I don't think came out at that time. It had come out earlier, but that's whenever I saw it.
Yep.
And right now, I'm with the visual team in NSG. I'm the art liaison, which means that I am the person that does all of the communication with the artists for NSG. And then I also had the recent article that was previewing our 2 new Shaper IDs. My favorite piece of ice has got to be Tattoo Bola, because not only is it a cute little guy, it's a nice little face check with an end the run that can swap out, just extremely flexible. Artwork by Kat Chen is just wonderful. I love this.
Yeah, Tattoo Bowl is a great piece of ice. It's I also I want to say I really appreciate that as someone who knows nothing about fashion and unsurprisingly haven't looked at anything I dress in, but I really appreciate the article. I thought it was a nice glimpse into a world that I know so little about. So I really appreciate you sharing that part of the process that can be very opaque to me. So thanks for doing that. And Suzanne has been killing it with all of the so much of the visual stuff in Elevation, and also like OP has been, you're one of the highly important members of the team from my perspective, getting all that going. So thank you. But yeah, we had a nice set of spoilers today. We had things from GLC, from Queering the Message, and from Surveyor. And so figured we would go through those, and we'll go through those in the card number order. So the first card we're going to talk about is from the GLC game spoiler. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I've heard great things about it. Did any of the three of you get a chance to play the game that was gated this spoiler?
Oh, it's amazing. I did manage to try and play a few rounds and immediately died in almost in every single run. I still haven't been able to survive this card, so I'm not sure how badly that bodes, but
yeah, for people who aren't aware, go ahead, please.
Oh no, you go.
No, please go ahead.
I was gonna say I tried playing it, but the issue is that I was at work when it dropped, and I was on mobile Safari.
Oh,
which
yeah.
It said both don't be on mobile and also don't be on Safari.
I had that same issue this morning, and it was like I was at work and I'm like, well, I'm in the office surrounded by coworkers. I don't know that I can open up a game of like Netrunner / Arkham and like not have people look at me funny.
Thankfully I was I work at a high school and they were doing ACT testing. So I was just being a hall monitor. So there was no one inspecting me or anything like that. But I was still not able to play it because I was just expected to sit and monitor the hall for 4 hours, 5 hours. I tried to skip to the scoop and it didn't even load the scoop.
Oh, that's a bummer.
editing.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get a play of it later, and I'm sure I would actually not be shocked if the Metropole Grid does a play of it after this.
Oh yes.
So maybe we'll try and keep this moving so that people can go and get to that. But at the end of that whole game was Hantu. This is a 3-cost 1MU Anarch Program Icebreaker Killer Virus. It's base strength of 2, and it says when you install this program, place 2 virus counters on it. Interface 1 credit, break 1 sentry subroutine, hosted virus counter, plus 2 strength. And then the flavor text, I'm on retainer for monthly purges on 36 different servers. Ratu Maharani Poang Virus. And this is, I think I said this is 2 influence. So, Suzanne, I might start with you. What's your, what stands out to you from this card first? It can be just about anything, be it the art, be it the text, the mechanics. I'm always kind of curious.
Oh, I am absolutely here to talk about the art. Buckle up, art fans. That's what we're in for tonight. So Hantu was one of those art pieces that on the back end went through a bunch of different renditions before we settled on this one, mostly because the card itself had gone through many variations whenever it was getting tested. But I'm really happy with where we landed. So Hantu, as folks probably looked up already, is for ghost in Indonesian, but the specific kind of ghost that it is I apologize in advance, a kuntilanak, which is a kind of spirit or urban legend in Indonesia. Typically women they had that had passed away, and I won't go into too much detail because of content notes. But if you want to look up more about the kuntilanak, then I would suggest that you do. And then Julio Rocha, the way that he has interpreted the net state style within the game is just so much fun. This gave this piece in particular gave everyone on the visual team kind of a Minecraft vibe, but without, the ickiness of the AI drama that the Minecraft movie is getting into.
Yeah,
It was just a really fun piece to work on.
Yeah, I love the contrast of the smooth robe and hands into the very Minecraft blocky hair, and also the foreground having some of that blocky cubic stuff. And that's a very fun I don't know, very, it feels like it's not a Netrunner cyberspace. I feel like that I've seen another artist do, but it feels very at home with the Netrunner cyberspace, which is very cool.
It feels
I definitely agree.
It's very just computery.
Voxels.
You see that sort of look maybe 90s, early thousands, very cyberspacey type movies.
Has Suzanne, I'm gonna ask, has Julio done other NetSpace stuff for us before, or?
Yeah, so he did Audrey, and then he
Oh,
also did Kurupira, and the more recently released Doom Scroll, which I believe was part of yesterday's scoops. Doom Scroll, actually, we had asked for a change in style because to get the vibes that we wanted for this piece, we really loved his more blocky style, but we thought it wouldn't be as good of a fit for Doom Scroll, and we are I've seen so many wonderful comments from folks in the community about Doom Scroll. I think wherever it landed is just really fantastic.
No, I don't usually not that the Netrunners don't have this kind of range, but I'm very used to artists kind of giving similar things a lot of times. So I would not have I hadn't even pegged that these were the same artist. That's really neat, and also I feel a little bad for not recognizing that this is the same artist who did Audrey, because I love the style on Audrey as well, and even stole it for my own stream last cycle. So a little shame on me, but yeah.
Yeah, I love Doom Scroll's art. It's a very original Netrunner. If it feels like it's from the 90s. So
yeah. I guess so. This is the worst part of me going, man, we've talked about this really neat art stuff, but I got to think about the mechanics now too. So I'm kind of curious if anyone has some initial thoughts on the role that this icebreaker is going to play mechanically, or things that makes them think of in that sense.
Is there I can't really think of any way to stick more virus counters on it, right? You can pop an extra one with Cookbook, but I don't know if there's any way to refresh the virus counters besides trashing it and recurring it.
Yeah,
single chip. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really is it. I don't think we have any cards in standard right now that put virus counters on programs that. Yeah, that just do that independently of the effect of the card. We've had in the past, we've had Surge, and what's the more modern one that's actually good? Contaminate. Both of those.
Yeah, Contaminate.
Yeah, both of those have Contaminate has seen some play. I don't think Surge really saw much of any play. So that does kind of that said, there have been cards in the past like Friday Chip or Knob Curry, rest in peace. And so I
don't really think you want to try and put more virus counters on this. I think the aim here is to maybe interact with this with Leech, which is and then everyone's been saying this. Hey, Leech, Mimic. It's a new Mimic, as Mimic is rotating this set. So even though the 2 strength is not 3, so I'm not sure how people feel about that. So still,
yeah, 2 strength is not 3 is definitely a bit of a loss, for sure. But I guess in theory it's now sometimes you could break a 4 or even a 6 strength sentry once or twice a game if you have to, which maybe that's pretty good.
It is kind of comparable to Propeller. And I guess in a way, if I don't know how much influence it is, but if shape or not, if Anarch is willing to import Knickknack, then you could try to do some of that little value engine of oh, that's 3 influence. Oof. But you
Symbol
could
check. Yeah.
you could try to do a little bit of that like value engine of what you see in Shaper right now with Propeller and Aesops.
I think it's probably more likely that this just gets imported to Shaper as a like, or like as a revolver style. Use it once, trash it, bring it back again, like a disposable breakers deck. But I still don't feel like it's going to see a lot of play because this doesn't break Boosters Starker. Drafter is 3, so you're going to be eventually run out of virus counters and be like, oh, what am I supposed to do with that? Sorry, going through all the ice. So, and the other thing is, if you're trying to face check stuff or you're trying to run with a lot of problem like average breakers, like Sentry Breaker is the one thing that you don't want to be caught out on. Like that's the one thing that you want to be stable because you can't face check anything that's Sentry nowadays.
Yeah, and Mavirus does kind of just potentially open you up to a lot of potential threats. I think that said, like there's probably I'd be kind of interested to see if we mentioned that like 2 strength is not great, but I'm like, oh well, Game Dragon Pro's like +1 strength is actually maybe enough to like make this look a little more interesting because now you can basically face check everything. But it's like, oh well, now I have a 2-card combo that costs me 5 credits, so I can break a draft for 2. Maybe I'm not so excited about that as I say it out.
Sorry,
you broke up a little bit there.
How much influence are you putting into Anarch for all of these combos?
I mean, hey, if I just play Game Dragon, that's only the 2, right? But yeah, if I'm bringing in Knickknack as well, that starts to add up.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I remember the classic Nobkuri mulch decks, classic as in like a year and a half ago. And I think it would be nice to see Hantu in like the next generation of like whatever goes on with the mulch decks, But odds are if you're going to be running Hantu with the mulch synergies, you probably might just go for all in on Audrey again.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if Hantu showing up meant was kind of like a signal that there would be other virus support printed in this set. Stuff like I don't know, it's not like similar to like what we saw in classic mulch, but maybe not as busted.
Yeah, something more closer to a Friday chip rather than an Obturi kind of thing.
Yeah. It would be nice to see that. It'd be nice to see like more cookbook. Cookbook's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, cookbook
I'm
is
holding out my hopes here. Sorry.
Yeah, I think this is like a bit of a, I don't know, this is a card that it doesn't feel like it's like oh man, this is a busted icebreaker, but I think it's like one of those things where you have to like go and look at the chart of like, here's all of the sentries. How many of these do I care about? How many of these does this deal with virus counters, without virus counters, and try and figure out if that gives it a real home.
But play tier, right?
Huh?
You said,
sorry, people don't play tier right now, don't they?
Yeah.
7th strength.
Yeah. You're fine. The tier isn't real and can't hurt you. So, Suzanne, I want to make sure if you have any thoughts you want to get in about this card. I want to make sure you get an opportunity as well.
So I want to put a little disclaimer that although I've been playing Netrunner since 2017, I consider myself to be very bad at Netrunner. So I'm mostly here to talk about the art.
Okay. No worries.
Okay, I'm not.
there's no bad takes on daily casts though. To be clear.
It's okay. I'm terrible at Netrunner, and I've seen like messages on Blue Sky going like, I wonder where Evie's Netrunner card reviews are. I really missed them, and I'm like, all my card reviews were bad.
I've been playing since 2015, and I'm still absolutely terrible. So don't feel bad.
I think I started playing tail end of 2023. So not even that long, relatively speaking. And I don't consider myself to be particularly good. But people say that they like my card reviews. So
Yeah, those were a lot of fun.
yeah, I love making the card go flippy.
Well, thank you all. All of y'all are very sweet. For this particular one, I don't think I have anything to add, but
Okay.
I'll try and be braver for the next one.
Maybe I'll call on you first for the next one. But we'll see.
No.
Well, we can talk about the art first, and then see how we're feeling.
All right.
All right. So this
I didn't see this. Where was this?
This comes courtesy of the Surveyor blog. So for people that don't know about the Surveyor blog, it's showed up in the last year. It is, I think, the best place to learn about the competitive scene in Netrunner. And I think they got this really nice spoiler. Kikai weaved it very well into the narrative of the blog. This is Scatterfield. It is a 3-cost, 0-strength HB code gate. And it has the text, while this is the only piece of ice protecting the server, it gets +4 strength. And then it has 2 subroutines. You may install 1 card from HQ. And then the second subroutine, end the run. Then the flavor text is a fallacy that conscious observation can change reality. The consciousness of the observer isn't required at all. The Encyclopedia Silica. And this is a fun. It's like, I guess I don't know how to even describe this art piece. I'm like, oh, it's like, little like chess spire towers going across like a cyber sunset. But that, I feel like that's only like a partial description of this. So
Yeah, so the discussion that I've seen about this outside of the mechanics part is about the art. Folks have referenced that you can look up what a Scatterfield is, which you can, but the art itself actually references a famous experiment in quantum mechanics, which is the double slit experiment. I am not going to explain the double slit experiment. I am not a physicist, and I admit. So I was originally going to be on Daily Cast a different day, so I was preparing for these cards a little bit beforehand. I was like, oh shoot, I don't know anything about the double slit experiment. Let me look it up. And then I read like 4 different articles and still don't get it. So
yeah, that's okay. It's a crazy experiment. It's a lot of, but
it is apparently very famous. But
yes.
so that though is why the buildings are in different levels of transparency. You have the more solid one that's in the center, and then it goes out on the side. It gets more and more transparent. And we just really love the colors that Bruno came up with for this one. I guess hot take for, oh no, not hot take. It's not even spicy. Okay, so my take on this card is that this is a nice piece of ice for early game. It's got an end run subroutine. It's pretty cheap. And it is also better when it is the one ice. It's nice also that it doesn't have a limitation on which server it is that it has to protect. Yeah. So just as long as it's the one, then it's going to be pretty good until, you replace it potentially with something else.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good set of observations. Like, I think that's a great place to start. And it's like, oh, hey, if I can find a deck that wants to just put single ice on servers, and that doesn't have to be, I think the first place you might think about this is these are like, oh, this would go on my remote servers and I'll put a campaign into them. But I think there's probably decks that would consider putting this just on a central and be like, I actually don't want to invest a bunch of ice on my central, and having a 3 to res 4 strength ice on my central is maybe just good enough to make my game plan kind of work. So I think that has some interesting potentials for it.
Really tragic what happened to Asa Group. Asa Group would have loved this card.
Oh my! There's so many cards in this set where I'm like, wait, but can we just not can we just like hold Asa back for a little bit? Like it would love all of these cards.
What's the rule for language for this stream?
You can swear at, we try not to make it, actively uncomfortable for people, but we're PG-13 or a little bit higher is fine.
This card fucking whips. I really love Scatterfield. Like, I am reading it right now. It is like, this is the first time I've seen it because I could not locate the scoop. I am so envious of your scoop locating skills. I feel overwhelmed with my attempts at trying to locate the scoops, just so that way I can use them for the card reviews. And then here you are whipping out this card. I've never seen it before, and it rips. I love it.
Yeah, this is a great one. HB getting some good stuff.
Yeah, there's so many times in HB where you want to like just dump an ice on like HQ or R&D maybe if you really don't care that much, or archives, and you're just leaving it there. Sometimes you just have a second server, a second remote that isn't your like main one, and like PD that you're just like want a little bit of protection on, because otherwise, well, I guess what would have been your Rashidas back in the day, are just sitting there naked.
Yeah, I feel like this is like a great piece of ice for protecting a wage workers, where it's like, you know what? I probably want to make it more than 4 credits for you to trash my wage workers, but like it doesn't have to be that much more. But like this is a nice way to protect it.
Yeah, and I think that's really great. I think it's nice to just use it as a cheap gear check. It's nice to just use it for whatever the heck. And honestly, like one of the really nice things about it is that HP doesn't really get that many good code gates.
All of them have rotated after post rotation, except for MIC and Harmonics, which nobody plays.
Yeah, I think I think you're up because you had Magnet before, but now it really is. I think it's MIC, Pulse, and Wave. I think are like maybe almost the only code gates in faction.
Oh, shout outs to Scatterfield for keeping Harmonic Ice unplayable.
I will say, I have a soft spot for the Harmonic Ice, not because I think they're good. I just, I do think Yakuza did a fantastic job on the art for all of them.
The art is way too good for how bad of a card they are. They should have gotten like a cheaper artist and then put I don't know, what was a good ice? What was a good ice in Borealis?
I will say, if you're looking for HB, the pickings were pretty slim in Borealis. It's like this has been one of the things where like in both, I feel like in Borealis and Liberation, like HB was like, oh, we don't want to give them like good reg ice because the faction's just so good at reg game plans. But
Gatekeeper, they'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, they have Gatekeeper. Like that's, but why would you print another card like Gatekeeper? But I think it's. Now that Gatekeeper's going, it's time to refill that space. And like clearly, it does feel like with the 3 res cost, 0 base strength, these cards, they don't match, but they do kind of rhyme. But I think they work a little. They also at the same time they work pretty differently, which I think is pretty interesting.
Well, it's because Gatekeeper. I think the difference is that Gatekeeper is just kind of good on its own. Like you slap down a Gatekeeper, and if they pop it, then if it's early in the game, you just are rich. You are rolling in it. Meanwhile, Scatterfield went a bit more prep on your side. to get that value going, because with Gatekeeper, if someone just pops it and you res it, that's 3 cards you get a draw. But with Scatterfield, you got to make sure you have something installable in your hand in case they do pop it, or else you miss out on that value.
Your HB, you have things to install, and like this will be like fully operational. Just slap it in front of a fully operational remote server, keep building those servers, fully operational. I think this might be stronger than Gatekeeper, and that's a scary line to say, and it might not look like it, but the fact that it keeps its strength after the first res is something that's going to come up a lot, because this is going to be expensive to break for runners until they, and like 5, I think it's like 5 costs maybe, like obviously dice a boomerang, but everything does. It's a occupational hazard.
Yeah, it's an occupational hazard of being a cheap ice is boomerangs coming out of nowhere.
Scatterfield's gonna love to be played alongside a Tattoo Bola. Sorry, other person go.
Oh no, please go. I was just gonna say more, and I talk plenty, so I'm happy to let other people talk.
I was just gonna say Scatterfield's gonna be really happy when you're like trying to get that incremental Tattoo Bola value, because then you gotta save that click to pop your Tattoo Bola back out.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one. I hadn't thought about that. That's cute. Yeah, I'm not sure that I would go as far as to saying this is stronger than Gatekeeper. I think chat's kind of like, maybe not. I think it works differently, right? Because like there was definitely end game board states where my like final remote would be like border control, unres Gatekeeper, and I was like, I don't think the runner can get through it past 2 Gatekeepers and a border control. And that's just
true. Yeah,
but like Scatterfield's not going to be as good in those board states. So I actually think like, Precision Design usually played a full play set of Gatekeepers, and I don't know if it's going to play any Scatterfields, which I think is like a really interesting difference between the cards. I don't think that says that Scatterfield's a bad card, just that it maybe doesn't have its home in Precision Design is maybe less clean than before, which I think is kind of interesting. But
I do also want to call it the fact that I think I'd seen some, a little bit of frustration from some folks about this. We have our Leo bioroids, and this is not a bioroid piece of ice.
mm-hmm.
But I think it's worth keeping in mind also the role that this piece of ice is trying to fill, particularly whenever it comes into context of the core set. The ice that came in System Gateway for HB are bioroids, so it's nice to have an option for those players that are just getting into the game that doesn't have the option for you to click through it, that can be something that the runner has to find an answer to, versus saying, oh, well, as long as I run at the beginning of my turn, then I know that I can get through this, and I just have to take advantage of being able to do that.
Yeah, I also like, this is maybe, I don't know if this card goes into Leo construction as a slam dunk, but there is the line of like, I have Scatterfield and like an Ancel. You break the Ancel and then I chuck it at you, and now my Scatterfield's back up to 4 strength. So like there's definitely a couple of, I think, interesting lines in that direction that are potentially there. So yeah, I think that's any final thoughts on Scatterfield before we move on to our final 2 cards courtesy of QTM?
This one scares me a little, honestly. Like Gatekeeper replacement, it's not, but is still probably strong enough, and it'll probably hold people out of the server for at least for the first. If you put this down turn 1, it's going to stay on your like HQ or R&D for at least 3 or 4 turns.
Yeah, it's definitely a strong card. That is certainly the case.
There was someone. Oh, Shai said that HP needs to demonstrate the card draw to fuel all these install effects, and that is something interesting that I think is worth thinking about, because we see all these installs off of a lot of elevation cards. But I think really it's, yeah, humanoid resources and top-down solutions maybe to draw cards, but even top-down solutions, like yoinks the installs that you would want Scatterfield to give you out of your hand before you could get the value out of them with your other cards.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And like
Uh,
that
yeah.
is, I will say this ice has given me the most hope that I'll be able to continue to be playing like fully operational decks post rotation, which, you know, I thought with Asa leaving, I was just gonna have to put fully operational away forever. But Scatterfield definitely gives me some hope that I can pull this out, and that eventually I can convince OP to get a new illustration for this, because I think the card like is I mean it's a striking composition, but I feel like I would love to see what the modern art team could take a spin on. But
As mentioned in chat, just play Sprint. Sprint's in the format.
it's true, it's even in Gateway. So you know you can play a draw two. Well, sort of a draw two.
It goes +0. It goes
Yeah,
+0.
Never mind.
It replaces all your cards with better cards, but the problem with Sprint with all of HB's install efficiency is that you're not putting more installable cards in your hand. You're replacing cards that might not be as useful right now with installable cards. But with the install synergy, you really just want to draw more cards.
Yeah, maybe we'll be using that other mode on Tranquility Home Grid a little bit more often.
I think I think it is interesting that Null Signal seems to be maybe pushing draw as a bit more of a weakness in HB. HB is getting a lot of click efficiency and a lot of ways to compress your actions, but one of the actions you're not really getting as much compression from is draw.
Yeah, and maybe you'll have to see, maybe there'll be more HB like splashing NBN, which does seem to be the faction with lots of draw. All right, well, let's move on to Jinteki, and I'm gonna Suzanne, and it's fine if your answer is no. Do you know how to say this name?
Oh no.
Okay, so I'll make a full. So I'm gonna. This is Phat Gioan Baotixita. I don't know. Apologies. This is a 1-cost asset executive. When your discard phase ends, place 1 power counter on this asset. The first time each turn an agenda is scored or stolen, you may remove up to 2 hosted power counters. Do 1 net damage, plus 1 net damage for each power counter removed this way. 3 to trash, 4 influence, and the flavor text, I make the best company. So people may recognize this character from one of the early Elevation stories. This is the one written by Shoeflower, I think, featuring this character, and he's showed up on, I want to say, the back of Aoko as well. And in Shoe Story, he was eminently hateable, and I think this art does a good job of picturing that. Yeah, he's probably still eminently hateable, but.
I'm going to enjoy trashing this person every single game.
Shu did such a wonderful job with that story, like really nailing down the character of this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start off with art, if folks don't mind.
Please.
This is another case of a person being someone inspired by the imagery of a real life person, though I want to note in this case particularly because Phat is just a really terrible person. No similarity in personalities. But his likeness was based off of a Vietnamese American actor named Dustin Nguyen. So if any folks want to look Dustin Nguyen up, he's been in, he has a pretty wide-ranging career, but he also has some fairly distinctive features, and I wanted Phat to be somebody, because I wrote the brief for this particular character. I wanted him to be, someone attractive, but also like with the pose that he's in, to be signifying that he is, not a person that is to be admired. So the folks might have noticed also the 3 clones that are around him. So the way we kind of envisioned him working is that there's a hierarchy within his clones. So the one who's on the VR headset is kind of like his clone that's within the highest hierarchy. He gets the fancy gadgets. He doesn't have to pay attention to Phat. He's like, oh yeah, you go and do your own thing. You can pretend that you're a person separate from me. You have the one in the back with the wine, who is trying to like schmooze him up basically to get into a better position of hierarchy within the clones. And then you have the one who's actively waiting on him. So again, terrible person, to be making kind of these versions of himself compete against each other, and also to that only he is good enough to be around him. He's very, very self-centered person. And then the last thing I wanted to point out about this art piece, which, by the way, Elliot Burt, we are so happy we got him back. Elliot hadn't done a piece for us since the Borealis cycle, actually. We hadn't been able to get him on for Liberation. So it was such a pleasure to be working with Elliot again, and he just has wonderful attention to detail. And poetry throughout this whole set wields a sort of soft power through their clothing. So many of the folks that are within the set that are wealthier or trying to, seem as though they are, will have some kind of poetry branding on them. And the way that you can recognize the poetry branding, if it is more of like the daily wear, then it would have the PB on it. And if it's more of the high fashion for the wealthier customers, then it would have this Penrose pattern on it.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I had not noticed the Penrose, but like as soon as you're like mentioned, like, oh yeah, this is like a poetry reference, I was like, oh, it's very neat to put those 2 and 2 together. Like that visual, the visual language of the world building is very cool here.
I'm super excited for next set to feature new Akiko, but this time it's the escaped clone of Phat.
I went and quickly went and looked. So Elliot had also done Info Bounty, it looks like.
And Sealskin Scarring. I also looked it up.
Yeah, those are honestly 2 of my favorite pieces. I think Sealskin Scarring is definitely one of my favorites, though it's not everyone's favorite for, I think, fair reasons. But I think Info Bounty, I remember I liking so much that it was like the theme card for Worlds 2023, because it was just such a great little piece, and like, yeah, as you said, a great set of like details without being distracting.
I love the art of Sealskin Scarring so much. It has the vibes, it has the juice, and it is up there with like Friend of a Friend in terms of cards whose art I just love relentlessly.
Yeah, and I think this card does such a good, like, Phat, I should say, does such a good job of like you feel like you can know so much about this character just by between the flavor text, the pose, the expression, and like the fact that he has a bunch of clones of himself waiting on him. Like, it tells you a lot, and I think it's a very well done like ensemble of all these different components.
I think this might be one of the best.
One more.
Sorry, no,
you can
go
ahead and finish, Dropbear. No, you go.
No, I'm just saying might be one of my favorite arts in the set. Like the smugness is just he's like daring you, like, yeah, sure, I'm just going to stay here, do whatever I want, and you got to come in here and trash me. It's like it's such a good angry it makes the runner angry, and then as a corp you're going, this guy, he's good. Sorry.
And then I was just going to say that we ended up getting Elliot for 2 pieces in the set. This is, of course, one of them. The other one, I don't believe has been scooped yet, but it is possible to see the image for it already. It's on the reverse side of the poetry ID card.
Oh,
no! On the reverse side, it has the bit of story, and then it also has the 2 images from the corporation.
Now I'm cheating and double checking to see if I can find it quickly. But I'll have to go and look another time. In terms of a card effect, this is a little bit of, PE's rotating, so I guess we get a little bit of PE as an asset, as a treat. So I guess, I think, as someone who plays a bit of online, I will be glad to not step up against personal evolution every game, though I'm worried that a lot of those people will just be like, okay, I have to find my way to get Phat into play every single time. So
you can stop crying about having no net damage ID. Just we don't need it anymore. We can print it on actual cards and not make it so bad.
Yeah.
Jason Ford asked, rules question, does he fire if you remove no counters? Well, the text itself says, the first time each turn an agenda is scored or stolen, you may remove up to 2 hosted power counters. The fact that it is a may implies that what happens next happens regardless, but it does say do 1 net damage plus 1 net damage for each power counter removed this way. So you do always get 1 net damage.
Yeah, but unlike PE, which is a whenever, this is a once per turn effect. So it's, in addition to not being active from the very first turn of the game necessarily, you can't pile up a bunch of triggers from Phat, which is kind of interesting.
Shall we get the Magic Christmas Land out of the way first? 2 power counters plus Fujin is 5 damage.
Yep, that's a good one. And then just
so. I think this is going to be Jinteki's Amane Senai. Just the high target. You must trash this if you want to start stealing agendas again. Although I'm not sure if Jinteki has the ability to support just having endless assets and saying, hey, if you don't trash, we can't punish you for trashing this. So, and there's no real way to defend this with ice, so it is a little weaker. It is a little vulnerable. Never mind, you've just brought up a card that I thought I would never see again.
Yeah. I don't know if this card actually does enough to defend him, but it's potentially an interesting idea. You could probably also splash up a research, but just hey, you went and trashed this guy that was going to take your hand size down, have a little hand size down in return instead. Maybe this will be the route.
Jinteki doesn't do anything with tags. That's Wayland and HB and MBN stuff. What can they? Oh, right, mindscaping.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's definitely, net damage has been a big part of Jinteki's color pie for quite a bit. So this card does feel pretty cromulent with a lot of game plans. I think that the challenge is going to be, before PE rotated, this would obviously go in a PE deck, and now that PE is rotated, I think which deck he'll be the best in is probably a little bit up in the air.
I hope the answer is no deck, and he just can't find a spot.
Sorry.
I would love to see I would love to see this card be 1-star unplayable trash, not because I don't think it's good, but because I would not want to see it. I don't want to have to deal with this stuff. This is my least favorite part in Netrunner, is the stress of knowing that they have a gun pointed in my face and I could pull the trigger at any time if I make the wrong move.
Yeah, I totally get that, but
yeah, this does feel a little bit like a grinder deck, which we've been trying to avoid for the last since Netrunner's been made. If this does get a little too on the nose, I can see this getting like a little bit. Maybe we should. This would be the first card banned, but I don't think it's either unplayable or this is making very, very, very uncomfortable play patterns. So, very interesting card to print, honestly, in a core set.
Yeah, I mean, like, it something that, maybe this can function as a grinder card, but I feel like grinder decks are going to tend to be the ones that have the hardest time protecting this kind of asset, and also making use of it if it's red. So it's like, oh, as the corp, if I'm rezzing this, and trying to just ping for one, like the runner could probably just go and clear this out, right? But if you can kind of build some counters, maybe you can try and use him as some kind of like burst combo. If we're thinking, we mentioned Fuji, but it's like probably the other thing you want to think about is like, oh, can this guy function as an additional, like, function as a bit of a neuro spike on the right board state and be part of a kill combo that way. That could be an interesting angle for him. I think I also want to shout out, like, he maybe fits, it like helps the like loud style Jinteki decks not completely disappear, because they were about using damage in a bit more of a tempo fashion. And when Dropbear, when you mentioned the like, oh, this plus a Fuji is 5 damage, I'm like, okay, so then I install 2 Blood in the Waters and score 7 points in a turn. That could be kind of interesting, but. I do think go ahead, Suzanne.
This is slightly off topic, but I did see. I mean, it's related to the card, but I saw a question in chat about how does he do the net damage. So I do want to clarify that Phat doesn't do anything himself. Other people do stuff for him. But in terms of Dustin Wynn being the appearance inspiration, character inspiration is Elon Musk. Much as I hate to say his name. So the idea is that has got like an army of fanboys online that like, dare you say something against this man, they are going to take you down with like the shittiest of takes.
You actually
that's where the net damage comes from.
Yeah,
you actually take
so
the 3
bad
net damage by being forced to call it XD everything up.
Oh boy.
Taking core damage from this. Why doesn't this do core damage?
Very good. That's a fun expansion of the net damage theme in a way I hadn't really thought about. Do we want to move on to the last card that got spoiled? So that.
Oh wait! I did want to say one of the things I do like about it is that Phat encourages you to play more proactively. I think I remember writing about this with Measured Response, that Measured Response is a card that is stronger when you are the one at threat 4, as opposed to when the runner is at threat 4. And I think Phat is similar in the sense that it really wants you to be scoring out the agendas to get the damage in, as opposed to having the agendas stolen, because then you get to have the initiative in when the damage is being done, and you're the one who gets to kind of play out your carefully crafted plan in the order you want it to.
I think that's a great observation and a really good connection between these two. And I really hope that is how this card ends up getting played, is like this is part of my proactive plan rather than this is part of my sit back and hope the runner trips plan. However, we got one more card talk about. This is Mico Web. This is a 8 res, 5 strength code gate with no additional subtypes, and it has 4 subroutines out of Jinteki for 2 influence. First subroutine, you may install one piece of ice from archives, ignoring all costs. Second subroutine, you may res one installed piece of ice, paying 2 credits left. Next subroutine, resolve one subroutine on a res sentry. Final subroutine, resolve one subroutine on another resed code gate. And Suzanne, do you want to take it away on the art for this piece?
Yes. So Mico Web, the MYC part is from, as folks probably guessed, mycelium, which PT uses as part of the construction of the space elevator. And mycelium it's just like fascinating stuff. This was one that whenever I was doing research for it, I got it versus the the double slit experiment. But basically, mycelium is what gives mushroom their nutrients. They either get it from stealing it from other plants through their roots. They will get it from dead things, which is what most people, I think, would associate with mushrooms, or the most interesting kind of mycelium is what this one is a reference to, which is as a sort of connector within the forest, So the roots from the mycelium will connect from like roots from a tree, roots from weeds, roots from, a shrub. It'll have all of these things and it'll kind of spread nutrients across it. So like if it notices that there's a part of the forest that's in distress, then it'll maybe move some of those nutrients to the roots wherever it's touching. So it's just fascinating stuff, and it works out so well in terms of what this ice is doing. A lot of folks have referenced it to kind of what Ravana does, wherever Ravana is saying resolve a subroutine on another piece of ice, Bayreuth, and then this one is referencing Sentry and Codegate. So I think that tie to the theme and the mechanics is a really nice one. Also, I believe on Tuesday during the Metropole grid stream that Andre was saying that this was a new artist. It is not, in fact, a new artist. Mia is a very old-time artist of Netrunner. She, like some of the pieces, she did work back in the FFG days. She did work like Bulwark and Cuban that Jeff uses for his image. So she, during the time of working with FFG and then working with us, she transitioned, and we made sure actually that on Netrunner DB that so we can't do anything about her old name on the FFG cards, but now whenever you look her up, you can only find her by Mia. You can't find her by her previous name.
That's very neat.
That was something that we wanted to do for her.
I feel like I need to write out to her and be like,
list of cards.
Yeah, it's a great list of cards, and I feel like I need to reach out and be like, I need to commission a some cute, either an animated coupon or some spin on that again, because it's been a great profile pick, but the card is about to leave us forever. So, but yeah, no, this is a fun piece, and I really appreciate that little bit of art and science facts. That was a lot of fun and a nice tie together.
Yeah, but I think this is definitely going to be a later game res for this piece of ice if you want to have its full effect. And I did really like kind of the rabbit hole that QTM went down in their discussion. It's like, oh, well, you can resolve this, and then a Bathonimus, and then like Resonant Enemy, and like it was fun to follow. And I want to believe in those Jinteki pipe dreams too, but often I feel like I have these big goals and then they don't happen.
yeah. This ice is like, it's very interesting to figure out like, okay, how many of these subroutines am I going to get when I res this ice? and how many do I need to get to make me want to res this ice? And I think that's going to be one of the really interesting things to figure out with this card. But Dropbear, I want to give you a chance to talk about this.
So the magical Christmas land here is, for me, Vampirosa,
Mm-hmm.
And then plus a Bartholomew plus Cloud Eater. So 2 net damage from Vamp and 3 net damage from Bardi or Cloud Eater is 5 damage. That's usually death. So,
Yeah.
And one of the big things here is you don't need both of these on the table. You only need one of those res, and the other one can be in archives. So there is a very real risk that I think a lot of people are going to accidentally die from this without realizing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely. I think that is definitely the high end potential of this card, and that's definitely an enticing one, right? It's like, oh, if I've res this, and I have Vampy out, or excuse me. Yeah, probably the idea where it's like I already have a Vampire Nasa res somewhere else, and then I get to res and put a Bathynomus face up for 1 real credit, and I can put it up on archives where it wants to be, and still get to fire off all of this damage for some pretty big effects. I'll say like in chat, people ask like, hey, if you have 2 of these resed, can you have it target another Mico Web, and if a runner is running with a Raindrops Cut Stone, have them draw their entire deck, and that interaction that we all know and love from Ravana is in fact back.
Oh no. You can resolve it as many times as you want, and then resolve any other subroutine. So that is an option. You can resolve one subroutine on the Red Sentry as well. So it's going to be very interesting. All the weird and wonderful combos you can get out of this. And I'm extremely scared I will die to this. I can guarantee it. This is going to fulfill the Anansi hole in a lot of decks, I'm going to imagine. Even though it doesn't do the exact same thing, it doesn't even say AP on it. It doesn't even say, oh, we're going to do the net damage, 4 net damage. It's still going to probably perform a very similar role.
And Evie, I'd love to hear. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just think Mico Web is a beautiful name for a Hospiroid card. I'm gonna be really excited to see this weird-looking Hospiroid card in LEO to pull out some Bioroid Ice from archives that were just trashed last turn, so that way I can bring it back and then trash it again.
Yeah,
it's gonna be really wonderful. It's gonna be really wonderful and really beautiful to see this weird shade of purple in every LEO deck.
I don't know that I thought about this as an LEO card, but when you say it, like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. People will be running assuming that they can use clicks to get through the worst of the effects, and maybe we're not prepped to break a 5-strength code gate, because I don't think there are any code gate Bioroids in standard at the moment, though there is, I guess, one unrevealed HB Ice, so who knows. But yeah, that could be. That does fit in a hole potentially. It's an expensive way, but I think that's definitely a really interesting perspective on it. I like that quite a bit.
Thank you. I stole it from someone in spoilers discussion.
A lot of money.
It's okay. Click efficiency means that you have more clicks to click for cash.
Yeah. I installed 2 ice and then clicked for those credits right back real quick.
Yeah. The other thing is also, this is almost minimum 5 to break for pretty much any runner, assuming they're not using any tricks. This doesn't get it doesn't really like boomerang, so you can't really. You're going to have to let at least 2 of these fire if you try to get around it using abnormal methods. I think the cheapest I worked out was Umbrella 4. I don't think people are going to be bringing out Umbrella to counteract this. So
No, there's a cheaper method. Boomerang poison vial.
no, the cheaper method is going to be crew charm, but it's because that it's going to become one of those questions. Do you let this fire? What if you know that it's not going to immediately do like 3+ damage? Like if you know this is just going to install like a couple of like really cheap cards from, and they're not going to res everything, or like one of the subroutines isn't going to fire with Resolve 1 Sentry or Resolve 1 Kogate. Do you let all of these subs fire?
I mean, I think like I suspect there's going to be some board states where you're like, oh, you know what? The only thing I care about here is I don't want you installing a piece of ice from archives, and I don't want you resolving a sentry subroutine, but your Kogate subroutine is not going to hurt me, and all your ice is rezzed. So those two subroutines like don't matter, or something like that. So I think that's going to be a potential challenge for Corpse with this card, especially because like if this is the first piece of ice you res, this might actually only have one subroutine on it, which would be like res 1 install piece of ice, paying 2 credits less. And that's pretty rough for an 8 cost piece of ice. But, you know, as you get more and more towards the mid and end game, this ice definitely powers up quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see how it evolves.
It's going to be so wonderful to play against this in Elio. And then you bring Barry Baz Wong, and you just whip out your boomerang with your poison vial already on the table, and then it's just gone.
That's a good point too. Actually, Suzanne, I saw one question in the chat, and I would love, we've been hearing a lot of people laud Baz's fashion choice. Is his jacket and stuff also a poetry brand thing, or is he has an independent fashion line?
It is not poetry. It is independent fashion.
Okay, very cool.
So there are 2 runners who have poetry products. Both of whom I happened to write the brief for. I put in the fashion. Magdalene and Topan.
Okay.
Topan's bag is a poetry bag.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. I was definitely noticing, like, wow, that's an ornate bag, and also like for a Netrunner card, a very heavily illustrated bag. And I like that. There's a good reason for that, and it ties in.
Actually, they actually got it off of Wish for $4. It's unfortunately a knockoff.
Yeah, so it's definitely one of those things where Magdalene afforded, like they're within the upper echelons of society. So they have the real deal. Topan, it's up for consideration, but it definitely looks like the real deal.
Yeah, for sure. All right, any...
Sorry.
Please go ahead.
Now, I'd like to shout out, like, all the ID art has been amazing this set. You've really knocked it out of the park, so thank you very much for working so hard on that.
We have some great artists to do the ID art this round. I'm particularly happy that we were able to get Zafania to do ID art. I think his in particular art. So he did Topan, Baz, and Dewey were Zafania pieces. And I was really, really happy that he was able to do those for us.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job on those. All right, any final thoughts on Mico Web before we start wrapping up the show? All right.
Zafania did Psych Mike.
Zafania's been doing art for the game for a while also. He's a classic.
Oop, that's not Psych Mike. There we go. I did not... I for some reason I had Zephania in my head as an NSG grab, but yeah, it's very neat. All right. Well, I want to say thank you to all three of you. It's been great to have, honestly, such different perspectives on different aspects of the game on tonight, and I've really appreciated these art lessons. Suzanne, I might need you to start giving me notes for like everything so that I can share, we can get these stories across, because they've been just so much more interesting than I, as someone who always thinks of myself as like a mechanics first person. That I've really loved all these stories. So thank you. And thank you, Evie and Dropbear. It's been really good to hear both of your perspectives on these cards. It's been a lot of fun to chat with all three of you. So with that said, I think we're going to wrap up the show there. Today was QTN, the Surveyor, and GLC. Tomorrow we've got the Archivist and Lotus Eater giving us some more scoops. And I imagine that Andre is well into his stream, so I'll let you all go to that. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks to my three fantastic guests for making it out. And we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.